been gone for a while. We've been traveling, spending time with family, working a lot, everything, right? And so content kind of took a back seat. And I didn't prioritize the content as far as what needed to get done. Really, the main thing was I had to work deep in some of our businesses. I felt like I needed to catch some momentum. And then on top of that, we were out in Utah spending time with family. And so content just wasn't top of my mind. And I didn't feel like I had much to talk about. Sometimes it happens with content. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. I love all the messages asking, hey, where's the podcast been? What are you doing? Where you been? Why are you slacking? This and that. Much appreciated. I promise I'm gonna stay on top of it for you guys. I love the winning nation. But so today we're gonna talk about. I got to speak to a guy in Nashville named Eddie Wilson at the Investor Fuel Mastermind. He went in, spoke about keeping your mindset right, being a rock for your company, and I'd never heard of the guy before. He owns a piece of, for those of you guys are in real estate, of Gary Harper's company, and he was talking about, well, he freaking sold a company for $1 billion in 2019. He had a 13 to 19% equity split in that. And then he proceeded to sell 81 companies the rest of that year. Like, think about that. 81 companies the rest of that year is insane, right? He had a Century Venture Capital firm at that point, and he sold his main company for $1 billion. So let's say he walked away with a couple $100 million that year. On top of, he believes he'll be a billionaire in real estate first from the amount of doors he's acquiring. So this is what I learned from him. After he spoke, I went outside and then I walked by, went and worked out. I came back and I saw that he was sitting there on his laptop. And so, you know me, I was like, all right, I'm going to pin this guy down. I'm able to pull every single thing out of him that I possibly can. Like, what can I get out of this guy? I want to be worth 500 million by the time I'm 35. What does that look like? How do I get there? How did you get to where you are? Here's the path. So here's what I learned from this guy. From about a 30-minute conversation of me writing down questions like, so how'd you do this? How'd you do this? What does this look like? What does your day look like? This and that. So first question I asked is like, all right, so what's your criteria of buying a business, and what do the businesses you're buying generally look like? I was like, all right, great question. So he said, there's 3 things that a business is usually lacking. And he goes, it's product issues, people issues, and capital issues. And he's like, most other VC firms only want to help with capital issues, right? Because like they're hands off, they don't really care. It's like, hey, you need extra capital to grow, we got you. He's like, I can go in. He's like, I'm amazing at product and I'm amazing at people. And those are 2 things that Hormozy's really good at, right? So Hormozy's really good at product. And him and Layla are just really good with people and product. And they can come with capital, but they really excel with people and product, right? And so he's like, all right, the product has to be good. They have to have some sort of their own IP that he can take and add to the multiple when they're going to go sell. So with one of our companies, I was like, all right, what IP can we create that increases that multiple? So I was talking about Call Magicians. I was like, all right, so if I want to build this up and sell it, he's like, well, it'll sell at a 5 to a 7 multiple, but it's going to go for a bigger multiple and that's on EBITDA. It'll go for a bigger multiple if you can have some sort of thing that you're doing that no one else is doing. And that way the company is more valuable. So it got me thinking about that. And that's what he's looking for, number 1. And then what type of operating system are they on? Do they have an operating system? He's like, you believe it or not, like some of these companies doing $10 million a year don't have a solid operating system. And he's like, I created Empire operating system just so I can come in, implement, like I use that company on all of our other companies that we're investing into, and we're good to go, right? He implements it right away. So it makes it really easy. He bought a company called FitCon. I haven't talked about it, the mastermind. He bought a company called FitCon not too long ago for $300,000 out of his Roth IRA. And it has a couple 100,000 to 1 million people on an email list. I know it's a big difference. And he essentially was like, well, and here's what a strategy was. And I thought it was fascinating. He's like, the average ticket value to FitCon is only $20. He's like, and he bought it for like $300,000. Like, so what I think I can do, he's like, number 1, I'm going to add on a quote unquote supplement company so I can sell into that list consistently. And this is the largest fitness conference in the world, right? So the supplement company in and of itself will be worth 8 figures pretty much out the gate just from being able to market to the list. So I'm going to do that. He's like, I'm going to give equity to several different influencers, and I'm going to create a VIP to where people can come meet the influencers, and then we'll pay other people to come. And so now all the VIP people get special preference, just like everything else. And they get to come meet the influencers, take pictures with them. He's like, automatically, let's say I can charge $1,000. We're bringing in, say, 100,000 people to a thing. I significantly went from now $20 a ticket to $100,000 a ticket. Nuts, right? So he did that to increase the value. And then he was like, and I'm going to create an app to where you pay $20 a month to get access to the app. You get free access to the events, and you get a discount on VIP. And that right there, since now it's a SaaS product, right? SaaS products go through the roof. Now it has IP, and you're marketing to that list, and he's going to add on the supplements. He's like, my goal for this is to sell it for 20 million to 30 million within the next couple of years. And so that made me think of like, all right, dude, so now you can go and you can identify very, very small things like, okay, so I see this company here, and like he saw the opportunity. And essentially what he saw was a list and a really, really good tribe of people. It was like, how else can I monetize this? How else can I do it without having to do anything besides give equity to really good influencers? The influencers market it more. And then I have my supplement company that I'm selling into that group already. And it's no brainer. Like, I was blown away. And so that was the first thing I got to talk to him about and hash it out and like pull that out of his brain of how are you going to take this company and what's your vision for it? And without a doubt, I mean, the dude is going to take it to the next level. I asked him, where is he getting his deal flow? And he said brokers. And then he's in a couple different masterminds. Well, not masterminds. What's the word? Incubators. He's a part of a couple different incubators, so he can just choose on what he wants to buy. And that was really smart. And I actually looked into what incubators he's a part of. He does do some roll-ups. He hasn't done a lot yet, but like that's the next step he's moving into. He doesn't really use headhunters. He has like his own core group of people that he can go place in. And then when they sell something, sometimes some of those people don't stay on. And so he gets to bring those people back in, and he'll just keep them on salary for a year. He's like, it's worth it when I find someone who's really talented to keep them in place. And then, okay, we have this new company, put them there, and then they can build it up again. And they're doing the same thing over and over again. Because once you learn, right? So for me to build, let's say, a wholesaling company up to where I've already done it before, it's not hard to build it again because all the knowledge and know-how, marketing skills, leadership, all that's already there. All you're doing is re-replicating it. And you're like, okay, this is simple, right? And so he's doing the same thing just at a significantly larger scale. So there's a thing called acqui-hires in the VC space and selling space of you hire someone through buying their company and you leave them on and have them work for you, continuing and keep growing that company. And he said it's never gone well. And because the biggest thing that I wouldn't want to do if I did sell a company was be an acqui-hire. So I listened to a podcast called My First Million. And in My First Million, they were both acqui-hires into HubSpot and Twitch. And the one who sold the Twitch hated his acqui-hire. The one who sold the HubSpot was like, yeah, it is what it is. But do they do actually anything that is, let's say, productive for the companies? No. And so that was a good thing to know. And then I asked him, why did he sell all 81 companies in 2019? I was like, bro, what triggered this? And he was like, well, honestly, it was just, I thought the multiples were really good and we sold one and it was massive. And I was like, all right, what else can we get for these? And he's like, that's why I sold. And I asked him if he regretted waiting a little bit. He's like, bro, hindsight's 2020. I mean, yeah, I would have gotten significantly more money through like after the COVID. But then he said in one of his companies, he was like, with what they had to do to get through COVID was an absolute nightmare. And he's like, I would have wanted nothing to do with that. He's like, I exited at an amazing time and we got a ton of money for it. And it saved me a lot of headaches. He's like, for me to be able to even make it through that would have been insane. So it was like, I wasn't worried about it at all. His number one skill, I was like, what's your number one skill? He was like, seeing the path of a business to get to a certain revenue point. So he sees a business. He's like, well, here's what needs to be done for this business to get to here, here, and here. And that was all. So he was like, all right, here's my path. Here's the business. Here's the path it needs to take to get to $20 million a year. Let's go. And so he said that is his true number one unique ability. I was like, what separates you? Believe it or not, I truly think he's a really, really good marketer. And I think the number one thing that I've seen from all the CEOs that I've studied, interviewed, talked to, watched YouTube videos of, all that other stuff, I think they're all truly amazing marketers. They're good at getting the phone ringing, but then obviously they're good at product because they can deliver on everything that they're marketing and selling about. Where is he learning from? He's like, bro, I'm honestly not learning from anybody. He's like, that's one thing I'm struggling with right now. He's learning a lot from the incubators that he's in. He's like, well, I like going in with these 20-year-olds who have these different startups, and they go and they set the world on fire, and they think about things differently, and they turn it upside down. He's like, that's where I'm learning from now. He's like, and he has one other guy who's working with. He's like, he only works with Fortune 100 company CEOs. I happen to get to be able to work with him. And all it is pretty much a guy analyzing his quirks and asking him, well, why? He's like, the best way he described him is like, it's like a Plato Socrates type guy, to where he's like, well, why do you have this car? He's like, well, I have this car because X and X. He's like, but why? And like, so digging in and kind of just hashing out your own bullshit for whatever reason. He says the way he works with him is like, the guy will call me and I have to pick up, and then we talk. But that's the way it is. But that's where he's learning. That's where he's getting his coaches. He's bought back 2 different companies that he sold before. And he's like, I like that a lot, because pretty much just a VC firm, and this happens a lot actually in the space, where a company will buy it, proceed to run it into the ground, then sell it again. So those of you guys who know Russell Brunson, he just bought Dan Kennedy's company, and a VC firm bought that company and proceeded to run it into the ground, and Russell Brunson got to buy it. I don't know if it was at a good price, but he got to buy it, and with what Russell can do, he's going to scale that thing to the moon. His mindset, I asked, like I said, coaches, what are the mindset shifts he's having with those coaches? He just said looking at things differently, looking at himself differently. His goal is to take a company public. He was like, my number one goal is to take a company public. Like, that's what I want to do, and I want to sell a company for $1 billion. So he has those 2 things. He's like, I want to sell a company for $1 billion again, and then take a company public. And he's like, and I want to be a true billionaire. He's like, I probably will be a true billionaire net worth off of my real estate holdings before my business, because of how fast we can acquire things. And the reason he said that is he's been buying significantly large multifamily deals for a long time, to where he's like, bro, it's so easy. It's so plug and play. I buy it, we throw it in the portfolio, and we're good to go. Like, I will be a billionaire more likely off of my real estate than I will off my business. And that is different for me, because I've never heard anybody say that ever who's actually in business, right? So in our space, most of you guys who are listening to me are in the real estate space. You guys don't really hear a lot from business people, but most business people become billionaires through their business, and then they buy real estate, right? It's very seldom the opposite. Even like Sam Zell was transacting real estate, buying and then flipping massive real estate deals to make a lot of money. But most of these dudes who are wholesalers are not going to become billionaires from fucking wholesaling, right? Like Manny Koshman, I'd say, is the best, most well known in our space of flipping real estate. And he's worth hundreds of millions at this point, but he's buying and selling hundreds of $1 million deals, $50 million deals, $10 million deals over a, let's say, month to couple year span of stabilizing it. I asked him if he had an executive assistant. Ooh, and this was awesome. I asked him if he has an executive assistant. This is what he said. He's like, I have 3. He was like, I have one that manages all of his time, one that manages all of his relationships, and then one that handles all of the regular bills and bullshit in his life. And that one held true for me, because the relationships one was awesome. I was like, yeah. He was like, think about how many people I fly, talk to, do all these things with. He's like, it is impossible to keep up with all these people. And I think at this point, Eddie's almost 40. And so I'm 27 now. And I think about all the people who I would like to keep up with, who I forget about. He's like, so I have a person who just manages all of those relationships and make sure that and I don't know if it was as much he remembers to reach out, or if they even reach out on like email or whatever it is, just so you keep those relationships intact. And I thought that was amazing. And he said, the the number one lesson from his dad was manage your time, don't manage your money. Fiercely protect your time. And I get shit all the time of saying, hey, I don't do pick your brain sessions, blah, 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 because I try to manage my time in the best way to where, like, all right, what's the value? And then one thing that freaks me out is that, yeah, I'm 27, and if I want to be worth 500 million by the time I'm 35, like, time is of the essence, and I need to be doing bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger things. And if I'm bullshitting, playing on my phone too much, right, and to where, like, scrolling through Instagram too much or doing whatever, you're losing out on that time that is never coming back, and you're losing out on those opportunities that you could be using to scale whatever you're doing up to get to a point to sell. Manage your time. I asked him what his best leadership advice is, and he said get his book. So I actually am I'm reading What Would the Rockefellers Do right now, but then I'll read that next book. CEOs should build culture. And so here's what he thinks a CEO should do. A CEO should build culture, know their numbers, and carry the big relationships. And I'll repeat that again. They should build culture, know their numbers, and carry the big relationships of that company. Right? So you're pretty much managing KPIs, setting the tone, and then carrying those big relationships, whether that's internally or externally, with all those good clients. And that kind of rings true for me. And so he's like, that's what I'm doing now. But he said he's a true operator and he loves operating. A book that he recommended was Larry Yacht, How Leadership Actually Works. And he said the best leaders are actually amazing managers due to contrary belief, to where everybody says leaders aren't managers. He's like, no, you need to be able to manage and lead if you truly want to get the most out of people. One of his goals was to build $100 million endowment for his nonprofit, so that thing is set up. And he's like, $100 million just cash in there, my nonprofit, so that thing will be able to run for when I'm gone. And he was big on legacy. One of the dudes who I listen to a lot, Alex Hormozy, doesn't believe in legacy. And I'm in the school of thought of where I like legacy because I think about like Alexander the Great, and this is 100% egotistical driven, but like I'd like to be Elon Musk, Alexander the Great, even Donald Trump will be remembered for the rest of time, good or bad, but like have your name in the record books forever and influence people for the better forever. So I would say Napoleon Hill has done that. Robert Kiyosaki's book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki will influence people forever. All these other really, really influential people who influence people for generations after they die. Who's another one? As a Man Thinketh, Viktor Frankl, like all these amazing books come from a lot of them, people who are already dead. I mean, The Art of War, think about all those books. This one is the one that blew me away. I was like, all right, so I want to build a company and I want to sell it for like 50 at least. And that'll help me get there. I was like, because I know me getting to 500 million in one company that's not SaaS is kind of impossible. And that's a 40-year journey. And I don't want to do that just over that long time horizon. There are so many opportunities for shit to go wrong. I mean, I read Shoe Dog by Phil Knight, like about Nike, and Nike was on the float, meaning that they didn't really truly make money until they signed Michael Jordan. And that was like a 15-year span up until that point. So I was like, okay, I see all of the room for error and all the exposure over that long period of time. How can I mitigate that, build something in a short amount of time, right? And I want to get rich quick. I don't want to get rich slow. I'd like to make a large sum of money fast. Like I look at Hormozy, and Hormozy did it from, let's say, 27 to 31. Like that's kind of crazy. Like that's a very short span of time to make $80 million, if you want me to be real. Like that's nuts. So how can we recreate something like that, make 20 million, 30 million, 40 million, 50 million in that short span of time, and then use that capital then to, I believe the next easiest way would be venture capital after that, like Hormozy's doing, like Eddie's doing, like a lot of actually other people who I've talked to do. Once they do sell a company, they go and they take equity in other companies and then help them get to a certain point and sell or keep it for cash flow. I really thought I was thinking way too small after that. He was like, what other verticals can your current business break into? He's like, you need to build, buy, and sell more businesses overall. He's like, once you get it good, that's what you need to move into if you truly want to get there. And then You need to innovate and do things in a different way compared to the way things have been done before in business. And it made me sit there and think, like, all right, what are we innovating in our space? And I was like, I don't think we're doing anything truly innovative in our spaces. Like nothing that is really absolutely game changing. And I mean, like innovations are innovations, right? So they just don't come like that, like that, like that. But what can you do that's that's game changing, innovative, and truly gonna like change the game for you, your company, and all your customers? But those are the main takeaways I got from my 30-minute conversation with Eddie Wilson. It was awesome. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you guys are interested, we have the Winning Mastermind. We have had some absolute killers joining. I'm so stoked. The biggest thing with that is we've put together an amazing community of people who are pushing to be in the right direction. If you are interested, hit me up. I mean, we got some developers in there who are developing hundreds of units. We got 2 dudes starting funds. We have another amazing online marketer. Like we got some really heavy hitters. So if you're trying to push your business to the next level and surround yourself with a community of people who are trying to get there as well, reach out to me. Send me a DM on Instagram. See if you're even a good fit. You do have to be somewhat qualified to join, right? We don't want to have someone who's a little bit too low, who's going to bring the room down. We want just the way I see it, and this is the way I feel like in the DM fam, I'm one of the people lower on the totem pole, but everyone up top is rising me up, right? Because you see what's possible, and they're like, all right. And they're like, oh, no, do it this way, do it this way, do this way. And so it's bringing me up slowly. And so we want to be able to bring the people who come in and like they may not be qualified, but bro, they got so much potential to where the people up top can help pull them up there. All right. So thank you guys again so much for tuning in. We got more content on the way. If you guys are interested in joining the mastermind, send me a DM saying when. Can't wait to talk to you guys all soon.